do with these is we keep getting a lot of questions, a lot of emails, people asking us a bunch of different things. And so what we want to do is give as much transparency and opportunity for you guys to hear about the process, because you know what we've been saying the whole time, we feel like we're fans of the game who are making a game for fans, and we want you guys to kind of have the fun that we're getting to have going through this process. So tonight's first episode is going to focus on the art creation process. So what our intention is to take you guys from the very first point at which we start to make up a concept for a card. The card mechanic is already designed. We'll get into that in a later episode. Tonight we're going to take where we already know the card mechanic. We have to come up with a concept for what the card's art's going to look like in a way that's flavored to go along with the mechanic. And we're going to take you through the process of a few different artists that have varying numbers of steps depending on how much they like to sketch, how different their inks vary. We're going to start with Sean Sawyer, who's the creative director for most of the first set of the Edgar Rice Burroughs and World Legends. He's going to jump on in just a second here, and he's going to talk a little bit with us about he was the person that was coming up with the bulk of the concepts for how the cards would be laid out, what the action was going to be, all those ideas, which he did a great job. We've got really fantastic art, and a huge part of that is the way he designed it to go along with the mechanics of the card. When we get done with Sean, we're going to pull, there's Sean. Chase, give everybody a wave, Sean. Then at the end of it, we're going to pull on Luke Fletcher, who's functioned as our lead graphic designer for the project. Luke's actually been doing work for Overpower since we first started to acquire the trademark, and we realized we were going to want to relaunch this. And Luke is the designer of the card back that you guys see when you play. He designed the new Overpower logo. That was a really fun process of months and months of, I can't even remember. Luke will tell us when he gets on, but we must have looked at 45 different variations. There's Luke. Give us a little wave, Luke. So, so we're going to kind of talk through that creation process specifically just to the art. And then once we've gone through several pieces, and Luke's going to take us through his whole process, we're going to jump on and do some Q&A. We did get a lot of questions that were submitted ahead of time. Just so everybody knows, we're going to stick to the questions tonight that are just about the art. Our intention for some of the future episodes, if we do this each week, we definitely want to do an episode where we're going to discuss the rules. We're going to have our founder, David McMillan, on, who's the main architect of the comprehensive rule book that'll live online. And he's going to talk a lot about how we took the meta rules that we're getting rid of and took the code system and the way we crafted them into foundational rules for the game that will define how all cards work. That way we get rid of the inconsistencies, and I'll save that for him to go through. We definitely want to we're going to bring Keith Bursack on for one of the weeks, talk about our play testing process. Once we have the cards designed, how are we getting them out there to the community, how we're testing them, and then how we're using that process to refine the mechanics to make sure that we're still delivering on the promise we had of a extremely flavorful game where the characters the cards create effects that feel like the characters are doing what they do in their books or their comics or their lore. So I think at this point, it's probably a good time to bring Sean on, and we'll let you guys know we are going to show art here at first with Sean. And then later, when we get Luke on, we'll go through the final version. So you'll actually get to see the final version of the card with the border and the mechanic. So if you guys stay all the way through to the end, you're going to get a sneak peek into some of the character specials and what those mechanics do as well. So why don't we go ahead and bring Sean out here. John has been recovering from COVID, so
Yes.
He's might not be able to talk as much as I talk, which is good because I talk a lot anyway. So it's a very natural back and forth. But so Sean was the creative director for the bulk of the ERB set. Sean's now moved on. He's taking over project management duties for the Top Cow set, creating the playtest cards and starting to do a lot of the same process there. Luke, who we've met later, is taking the baton from him. He's going to get the last part of the set over the finish line, while Sean moves on to our first license set. So Sean, we've got 3 cards that we want to go through, but the one that I want to start with is I wanted to go through the text description for the original hero that we did for Three Musketeers. So you guys know, we released a picture of the Three Musketeers on our social media about a week and a half ago. That's the final version of the hero, and we're going to talk you through the art process and how that influenced us deciding to do a new hero and using the original hero that we had here for a special card. Sean, do you have the original text description of it?
Yes,
Do you have it
I
in front of
do.
you?
Yes, I
So
do.
I'll talk just for a second before we jump into it, but the main thing we wanted to do with this art, the driving force is we wanted to create not just a CCG game that we loved, but we also it's really important to us with the advent of AI or just the current state of a lot of the trading card and collectible market. We wanted to create a set of cards that were going to inspire people the way cards when we were kids did. So if you saw my panel at San Diego Comic-Con with Joe Jesko, I talked a lot about how his first set of cards that I ever opened, the first superhero cards I opened were Marvel Masterpiece 1992. You guys are probably sick of hearing this story, but the Human Torch was in there, and it's the iconic thing where he's throwing the fireball and he's like in space. And I'd never read the Fantastic Four. I didn't know anything about it. That made me go seek out the comic because I was like, this is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. I bought so many packs of that set, collected the entire thing. But that inspired me to go read comics. And I'm sure, Sean, you must have examples. What's a kind of art, whether it's from a comic or a card, that like what really pulled you into this from an art perspective, comics and cards?
Well, my first foray into comics, I think, was my my aunt got me a bunch of X-Men, and I think it was Andy Kubert's Omega Red, X-Men number 15. I was like, yep, this, I can't get enough of this. I asked my parents to bring me to the grocery store every week. I bought as many things as I could that
Yeah.
had the Kuberts. And forgive me, folks, like he said before, I am getting over COVID, so I'm going to have to excuse myself periodically throughout this.
And that's actually a really common time everybody got into it because the X-Men cartoon originally dropped that year. Like I think my first issue of regular X-Men was that I had picked up some random Uncanny issues earlier because my first Uncanny issue ever was 252, the Mark Silvestri cover where Wolverine's crucified on the X.
Reavers.
But the a lot of people come in on that Kubert time because it's right when the cartoon was hitting, and he was already that's about where it was that second appearance of Omega Red after the Jim Lee, like the 6-7 appearance.
So to tie that into what we were talking about before, just that love of opening up cards and seeing that art and just wanting to scour the planet and try to find as much of the IP as we can. We wanted to translate that into our game as well. And like Joe had touched on before, we're very anti AI because as great as the AI can mimic, it lacks, I guess,
Soul.
a soul. There's no soul in it. And we really wanted to make sure that our art was connected to the artists because without great artists, there'd be no comics of today. So, excuse me.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I think that there's just not a feeling that you get from a piece of AI art than you get from like some of the art we're going to show. I mean, when we get this, we're getting this art coming in. We're creating over 350 pieces of original art for this set, and when we're getting these emails, and I'll assign a card, and I'll get an email in from an artist I'm really excited to work for, and it's like Christmas morning every time we get one of those emails because it's like, oh my God, we've got our own text chat. Did you see this one? Did you see this one? And that's what we want to create. And, that I just don't feel like the current state of collectible cards. I don't know if you're familiar with, like, I was really disappointed in the Upper Deck X-Men 97 trading card set where they were just using the announcement stills from the original ads as the cards. There's like they don't hire artists anymore, and that's the other thing we wanted to do as we started talking to these artists. Like we're going to show you a piece tonight from an amazing artist, Philip Tan. If you don't know Philip Tan, he did a run on Moon Knight. He did a run on Green Lantern. That's incredible. He part of the Suicide Squad series alongside of Jim Lee during like the New 52 relaunch. He was Hawkman for a while. Just some of the best pencils I've seen from any generation. They're
Since
really great.
Jim Lee himself, it was
Yeah,
just that
basically.
level. Yeah.
And it's really a similar style, which I think is why they paired him up on Suicide Squad. But just and what a great guy to work with. He loves cards and he's so excited about it. He's telling us the same thing. Like, guys, like we want to make cards. The artists want to do this. They want to bring you guys these cards. Used to be such a huge part of the artists' job, but what they were doing, they did comics and cards, and that's just got pushed to the wayside. And I think it's bad for both the collecting hobby, the playing hobby, and comics, because that's a big way how people used to get inspired. It was a non-story connected way to just draw the coolest picture you could of somebody. So so that said, let's get into one of the cards, because we are going to try to keep this relatively tight. We know you guys don't have all night. We want you to get to see the cool stuff too. So I'm going to read. We've got the Three Musketeers hero. At this point, we've been working on the set. We've designed it for realistically the better part of 2 years, because before we had the license, we didn't know. We were like, all right, we might just go public domain. So the Three Musketeers has been getting, designed and tossed around. We've got a pretty good idea of their grid. We know 2 energy. They do have some. They use I think their flintlock. Technically, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. They use the old ball and powder pistols.
Musket.
Yeah, and then they've got. So we figured give them a little bit of energy for that, because it's a gun. Give them the 7 combat. They're not quite on the level of like a Captain America, but as a group, they're fantastic. And then we figured brute force 5, because there is 3 of them. They can generate a little more brute force than a single person. And then we debated a lot about 4 or 5 for intelligence. We have them currently at 4, not 100. We got a lot of fans of the Three Musketeers pointing out that they're scholars and poets and strategists. So, we're listening. They may get a bump to 5 intelligence before the set comes out. So we've got that at this point. We've designed the inherent ability in the cards to have a lot to do with teamworks, because they're a team. At that point, it goes to Sean, and Sean's got to come up with what he wants the hero card to be. Now, the hero card doesn't have to match a specific mechanic in the game. It just has to represent them. So, Sean, I'll just read it for you, because I know your voice. I'll save your voice a little bit. But so we originally will contact the artist. This particular artist is Wilton Santos. You've seen his Mina Harker. You've seen, I think, his Count of Monte Cristo image. That's going to be the 7 intelligence power card. So Sean goes in, and he's got, we're working with 3 colorists and 20 artists over 2 different companies. He goes in. This particular artist is repped by Joe Prado. Joe Prado Studios. If you guys ever are doing anything with art, just an absolute dream to work with. What a great guy. Such a talented stable of artists. And we've had the pleasure of getting to work through so many of them. So the set's going to have a lot of different styles. So Sean's got to come up with it. So this is what he originally sent out for text. Before we even get to this sketch, Sean has to create this in his mind. So he writes Three Musketeers hero card, a little bit of brief of the card layout. So all hero cards are in the landscape format. There's with the subjects left of center. When we go through this with Luke, you're going to see a little more of the process of the templates that we send them, so they know where to place stuff. But we're just going to focus on the art for this one. 3 Musketeers facing each other with their sword tips touching in the sky. They're wearing standard French Musketeer white and blue clothing, standing on the castle wall with cannons blasting and a battle in the background. So that's all we gave him. So, Sean, this is the first sketch we got back. So what were your thoughts on this when you saw it?
I'm sorry, what?
If you can talk.
I'll try as much as I can. Well, I wanted to show the side of, I guess, the Three Musketeers as like a unified, a cohesive unit, and what better image of the Three Musketeers working together than when they touch the ends of their rapiers after a job well done. All for one, one for all kind of thing. we were able to highlight their combat prowess throughout the special cards, but I really wanted to show them together. And since there's limited space on the hero card, it really didn't lend itself to a combat scenario, with the text and the title, the name, and the threat icon. We really had to keep them in close together. So all for one for all.
So as you can see, if you bring that back up, the originally we didn't have all the templates built out yet. This was one of the first heroes that we did, and so we ended up just sending the Wicked Witch template to give them an idea. We figured the Three Musketeers is about similar in length, so that would give them a good idea of where the words were going to be, where the threat icon was going to be, where the title was going to be. This would give him an idea of how to place things, and this one was pretty good. Like it fit in the right areas. So Sean, this was one of the first cards we did. So as you're going to see, it's a very big difference between where it ends up and what we see with the first sketch. So now we're a little more used to it, but what were your thoughts when you first got this sketch? Were you worried at all about where it was going to go?
Well, it's kind of funny when I send the that briefing out. Everyone's got an image in their head, and either they're gonna send you back something where you're just like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted, or the artist will just blow your mind and be like, nope, that's even better than what I imagined. And you have to kind of judge, okay, it's a rough sketch. That's pretty much what I had in mind. Let's see where he goes with it. And as you'll see with the next variation of this, leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
Getting this guy to do one of the first pieces we sent out, it's just like, yep, this is going to be a great job. There's going to be no headaches. This is going to be fun. Like Joe said, working with the artists at Joe Prado made everything easier. And especially Wilton Santos was like such a pleasure to work with.
And it's like with kids, you're not supposed to have favorites, but every parent does. So Wilton is right up there. He's absolutely one of my favorite guys that we're working with so far. Every time he turns a piece in, I end up sending it to the group, and I'm floored. So all right, so this is the next step. Now, what's going to be fun tonight is you're going to see how different artists work. So Wilton likes to get us a rough sketch, and then we basically get a drawn and inked step next. But we trust him so much at this point, it's fine. Like, we don't need to micromanage, because as you can see, when this finally came through, it's gorgeous. So we don't really need to go over the inks much, but the inks came in. Sean, with the inks, I don't think at this point we gave him any notes, right? What were your thoughts at that point?
No, there was when you consider the entire stable of artists, there were very few where you're just like, nope, you take the ball and run with it. We were blessed with the quality of talent.
So if we go back to the inks for a second, one of the great things about Wilton is his style is so detailed when he's doing these inks that there's just no question of what it's going to look like. You can almost see the blue, was a scabbard? I forget what those things are called. You can see, he's thrown D'Artagnan here in the back, doing a little bit of fighting to kind of round it out. We didn't even ask for that. Those are kind of the gems. I've kind of pitched this with all of us at the beginning, working with any creatives. I think you always want to give the creatives the leeway to take their imagination and their skill and create magic. I come from a film background. It's the same idea with directing actors. I got just a little thing. A couple of people are sending me messages that they stream is stopped for them, but we're going to keep going because we are going to have a record of this recorded. So so we'll go back to the color here in a second, but this one didn't really need anything for adjustments. It's so detailed when it comes through. And the other thing that's going to be interesting about tonight, so Wilton Santos colors his own work. And that's really been a mixed bag for us. We've got, across the board, pretty fantastic line work.
Mm.
But coloring it is, was a little mixed bag. I think we had most of the artists submit colored versions when they first started. But it's also, we've learned now working with the colorists, we could do a whole hour conversation just on colorists. Our colorists that we got through the Joe Prado studio are amazing, but they really, I don't think, even as an avid comic book reader and someone who studied the process, I don't think I had any idea how much of
No,
an impact a colorist can make.
I learned so much about the process of comic books, and I I gave up nights partying and with girls to read comics, and you'd think I'd know as all there was to know, but I learned so much more. It
Yeah.
was a really fun process. I was like,
And
wow, who
we've got a
knew?
couple of pieces that we really liked the pencils, and you know, we we've actually had a piece I think we colored 3 times because we had an artist do it. It wasn't exactly what we were looking for. We had a colorist do it, and then we looked at it and we were like, both of these are usable, but we had a third colorist and we said, because of these elements, I bet this colorist could do it. We submitted it a third time, and it's like you're looking at 3 completely different pieces of art. So it's really been fun too to learn our colorist styles. I tend to assign to the colorist. That's one of the things I have the responsibility of, and I really spend a lot of time looking at the other pieces they've done and trying to assign the ones to the specific colorists that I think are going to look a certain way. So anyway, this is the final piece here. When we get to Luke, we're going to show you what it looks like with the border. But yeah, so this one, you guys have probably seen a little bit of this because oh, actually, no, that's not true. There's another step we want to show here. So, this talks a little bit this was one of the ones where we didn't end up using it for the hero card, which is the whole reason I picked it. So we looked at it and then we started going through the special cards. We had a special card that was called All for One. And what they're doing here is they're doing the All for One, touching the swords together. So this is what it would have looked like if we kept it for the hero card, which is great. We didn't love that the brute force and intelligence was covering up as much of one of the musketeers as it was. But then we got to the point where we had this special that was called All for One. And we just thought to ourselves, let's give him another hero card. That's the Three Musketeers that you saw on our stream before, or on the one of the advertisements. And we said, let's make a little bit more of a dynamic picture. Sean came up with a description of them bursting out of a castle and kind of holding ropes and running along the side with their swords out. It had a little more action. It was more dynamic. It's a beautiful hero card. And then you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We're going to show you what we ended up with for this one, which was, you can see now, if we can move the back one, that'll be great. But is there a way, can we zoom out on it and see? There we go. So you guys will see now, this just worked perfectly for this card. You kind of see exactly what you need to see. It's a battle. The musketeers are touching tips. And you guys get a little sneak peek to one of the cards. So we're still going with this design for the first set. You'll notice that we have the icons that are going to be a lot more in depth with the different cards. So the full hourglass means this is a remainder of game card. The swords mean it's an offensive action, not always an attack. And the paperclip means it clips to the character. So if they die, it goes away. And you guys are getting one of the first one per deck packs. You're getting briefed on. So sort through the draw pile or dead pile for any one teamwork card and place it in hand. For remainder of game, the Three Musketeers may place and play any teamwork card, regardless of grid requirement, and may make one or both follow-ups. So the idea is you play All for One, they become All for One. You get a teamwork out, so it's card neutral. You don't lose a card to play it. You do have to spend a turn to play it, but then the Three Musketeers just become able to use any teamworks, and they're always able to do it. We thought that was really thematic for stories where they go back and they get the entire brigade of musketeers to come out and do things as well. And so that sort of takes you through the process. Had you just opened this special, you'd be like, that was a cool piece of art, but that's how we got to the point of saying, like, this piece of art goes with the theme of the card a lot more, and we ended up using it for the special. So let's jump into another one because I'm sure everybody's here also to see a lot of the art. So the second thing we're going to show is we've got an artist from Kirby Comics. That's an art studio that represents a lot of big names in comics today. And we're going to look at a piece from Victor Faro. And Sean, I think you might have seen this. but I wasn't. This is one that we kind of were going through as you were jumping onto Top Cow. So Victor Faro got the assignment to do an alternative art of the Headless Horseman. Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit about like what the guidelines are for the alternative art versus a regular hero?
Yeah, well, if anyone's familiar with collectible cards, they're called like full art, where they kind of burst beyond the border confines of the normal card. And so the alt art, what we have done is we'll keep the grid on the right side of the card, but we take away the energy, combat, brute force, and intelligence, um, pretty much just making the entire card. We can move him a little to the center and really let him pop out of the card.
Yeah. So we'll keep the icons and the name, but we get rid of the words. So some of them for the full art will still have an inherent ability, but we don't have energy, combat, brute force, and intelligence taking up, 20% of the real estate on the card. So Victor was interesting. We don't have examples of his stuff to show you, but you can go look him up. Again, as soon as we saw his work on the Kirby Comics page, we knew we wanted to do a piece with him. So if you go back, so for the sketch, we kind of said, here's our Headless Horseman. You guys saw the picture that we had in the when you first came into the room of the Headless Horseman hero card. That's going to be the common. That's him holding the pumpkin directly at camera. We've used a lot of his art because it's really fun. That most of that art's done by an artist, Cuber, who's from Prado Studio. But we talked to Victor and we said he had this great image of Wolverine that was kind of like a dark, like a painted color, almost like a mix of like an oil crayon and a paint. And it was very, very cool. And we said that would lend itself really well to Headless Horseman. And so we got this sketch and we said, okay, like, it's really hard to tell with some of these artists that do a pencil into more of a painted style. But this is a pretty cool, you can see the flame. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool effects. So we'll jump to the next. So he submitted another sketch that was a colored sketch. So this was a little interesting because we looked at this and I looked at it a little bit with Luke, who'll come on later. I wasn't in love with this, if I'm being honest. Like, it's good as a sketch, but I was like, I was kind of hoping for, like, I don't know, the horse to be a little more prominent, and it looks a little. Just for me, I wanted it to be a little more in your face, like looking at the camera, that stuff. But like I said, we try not to give a lot of notes until we see what the artist process is going to be and get to the final product. So what was cool about this one is it was almost like Victor read our minds. And so we said, this is good. Send us that. We'll give notes at this point. Like, we want to see your painted style. So if you take a look at what he did, we're going to put up the full art of what he got back from the next stage. So the next one that he got back was kind of exactly what was in my head. So it was you'll see that the horse is bigger. He's more in the foreground. And there you go. So from that last one, this is what we got. And I just absolutely love this card. So I don't know what everybody else thinks, but he took a sketch that I was like ho hum about. Like, it was fine. And then just delivered this piece, which blew me away. I love the representation of the horse. I love just kind of the painted style of it all. It's just such a more dynamic, and choosing to have the jack-o'-lantern look directly into the camera was good. So this is another, sometimes with these process, not micromanaging is the way to get the best thing. So, Ronald, do you have it with the stats on it? So you kind of get an idea. I said we're going to show it later. We'll just show it now if he's got it. So this will give you an idea. We'll adjust sometimes when the background's light, like on this energy icon. We'll end up going in and doing a little adjustments on those icons to make it perfect. But now this is going to be one of the chase variant versions of the Headless Horseman you can get. And you'll see it really allows us to breathe in that space more and kind of use up the entire palette. So so this is great. This the one thing you don't see on this, it's not quite final yet. Any of the full art ones are called our signature series. So all of the artists are providing us with their signature. We're digitizing it, and in either silver or gold, these are all going to have the signature of the artist. In the quadrant, probably like where the inherent would be, or a little bit off to the right, as if it's been signed by them. So there's a little treat for you. Nobody other than the design team has seen that version of Headless Horseman yet. So I hope you guys like that. But I do have to say, we're going to show the Philip Tam piece next. This is one of my favorite pieces in the set so far, so I'm really excited to show it. So the first thing I want, we talked a little bit about Philip Tan, but Ronald, were you able to put those samples of his art up, or is that no? Okay. So if you guys want to just Google him, just go look up some of his pencil work. If you go to Philip Tan on his Instagram, you should follow it because he does drawing videos and they're amazing. He's got like cool videos where he's hand drawing Thor and Miss Marvel, and his pencils are just so amazing. Like if you fall in love with them, again, it's that reaction. Like I can't wait to see more. So we decided, since we have licensed the Edgar Rice Burroughs universe, and Philip Tan is one of the artists I just love and am so excited to get to work with. It's really a dream come. I can't say it enough. We all come from different backgrounds. We didn't get into comics young and work our way up. We're in our 40s and 50s, and we're getting to take people we've idolized for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, some of them, and getting to work with them. So getting to do a piece with Philip Tam is just absolutely a dream come true. So we took our Deja Thoris, which is one of the characters we've licensed. She's the princess of Helium, which is one of the cities on Barsoom. That's the name of Mars in the John Carter of Mars series. And we gave him a few pieces of her to do. And you'll notice, some of the people have asked questions about, like, the tastefulness, like, are we going to try to make the art as tasteful as can be? So if you're familiar with the old pulps of John Carter, all the people in Mars in the Kingdom of Helium basically didn't wear clothes. It's incredibly hot on Mars, and they have these things called eighth ray guns, or the guns that they shoot just can go right through any armor they would wear. So it doesn't make sense really to completely armor. So we're taking a little bit of a liberty, because a lot of that stuff was written in a book when it was supposed to be left to your imagination, and it's just, we wanted something a little more tasteful. So we decided to give her some armor, but this is the process we went through. So this is the sketch that we got back. So this was one of the rare times where, right from the sketch, I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty amazing. But this will show you that, like, Philip's process is so intense and so in depth. Like, the sketch he gives you is already almost a finished piece of art.
Top notch,
yeah, like his pencils look like inks at this point. And then you'll see. So this is an interesting thing that we do. So we'll hold here for a second. So what Luke is going to talk about in his process is, we've started now trying to give the artist the exact border of the card that they're going to use. That way they can, when they do their layout, when we get their first sketch, it's something that we can drop this on and just say, all right, we're going to be able to see most of this art. So, again, we didn't really have a lot of questions about this one, and Philip was basically like, I've got this, I'm just going to go right to color. So we wanted to include this one to really kind of knock your socks off with what this one's going to look like. But let's bring up that color image and show you what he got us for a final piece. So just so you guys know, Philip is doing the Deja Thoris hero card and one of her other specials. So you're going to get 3 pieces of his interpretation of Deja Thoris, which I love. I hope you guys love. And he's actually, I think we've got him for 20 pieces for this set. So you're going to get 20 pieces throughout the set of Philip Tam art. There's definitely going to be some collected pieces of his full art. And there's going to be other places where we sprinkle him in throughout the set. I'm kind of leaning toward maybe having him do an 8 combat power card, because we haven't assigned that yet. But that's also the fun part for us. Sean, what is there anything that, now that you've seen his first piece, what you'd like to see him do in the set?
I mean, is he doing anything for DC or Marvel coming up? Because we just give him half the rest of them. It is just as good as you're gonna see in any medium. It's unbelievable. Gosh, well, we already have I think we already have a Morgan Le Fay. He's very good with female characters, but I'd like to give him somebody like a like a Hercules or a Sun Wukong, somebody where their muscles can like take over the screen, or the page. Sorry.
That's a great idea. I don't think we don't have our regular hero. We have the Raymond Gay version of Hercules, which is amazing. But yeah, maybe we assign him Hercules. So, and so you're kind of seeing the process. The fun part is we get to see what they do and kick it around. But yeah, that's a really great piece we wanted to preview for you guys. So, Sean, anything else you wanted to say about the process that you think people might find interesting, or?
No, just like I hope you guys are as excited when you open up a pack to see the art as we were excited to open up the emails and get them. We're really excited to share this with you and show all the talent and hard work that went into this process.
Yeah, and that's true. Like the amount of time, we've been doing the art creation process since the beginning of June, and we're about 75% done. So we still have maybe a little under 100 pieces left. So, we're going to be doing it. We're going to be finishing creating the art well past, well, not well past, but probably right to the end or past the Kickstarter. So,
And keep your eyes peeled because we have a lot of other great artists, named artists in the industry that are also going to be producing the alt art. So get excited and stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay. Sean, I'm going to let you go, and then we're going to pull Luke on. And yeah, thank you very much, Sean, jumping on. I know you haven't been feeling great. So why don't we grab Luke in here, and Luke's going to talk to you a little bit about how the process has evolved. So one of the things we did early on is we were just doing the kind of what you saw us do now. Give them an idea for a card, talk about if it was cool. You saw how the border, when we put the Deja Thoris card in the border, it sort of helped us. We were just eyeballing it, not thinking it was important to like actually drop it in there. And so then we started to get some in, and Luke was pointing out some cards that we had issues with. So just like with any way that you do this, our process has already started to evolve. So Luke is now, he's taking the baton for finishing up this set while Sean jumps onto Top Cow, but he's also just become kind of a more integral step in the process. So what Luke does now is take the actual borders for each card, because we have all those completed. We're just dropping the art in, and he'll send him a transparent layer of that. So Luke, I'm gonna toss it over to you and let you talk through your graphic design process a little bit.
Sure thing. First off, hey everyone. I'm glad to see
yes,
so many
introduce
people.
yourself, Luke.
Yeah, so I'm Luke Fletcher. My story is pretty much the same, except my issue was X-Men number 12. My sister bought that for my birthday, and I've been hooked ever since. Loved playing Overpower. And just a follow up, every time we get a new piece of art in, it makes the text rounds and we all squeal. It's just, it's been something really fun and something I've, never thought I'd really be able to break into doing comics or anything related, but here we are, and I've done so much work and just had so much fun with everyone, and everyone's just been a real pleasure to work with. So yeah, I'm ready to kind of walk us through the process.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of a freeze here, but let me just check in. Ronald, should we just keep going, or? Okay. So, well, can we take a look at the first thing, or?
Oh, great. Yeah, so like Joe was mentioning before, there's a bit of a description brief that we give the artist. Sometimes they're a little more complex if we have something in mind that we'd love to see, but sometimes they're a little more, 1 to 2 sentence length. So we don't, like Joe was saying, we don't try to feed them too much. We think of more like guardrails rather than a whole picture we're trying to get them to recreate. So with this high to trample special, I won't read the text here on the screen, but like I said, it's very short and sweet, something that we have in mind that we'd like to see. And that also, along with these briefs, like Joe said, we've been trying to give them the templates for that specific card. So this is the first rough pencil sketch that we got back from the artist. And, if Ron, if you can bring up that next slide. Cool. Yep. And so we give the artists these guides to show them exactly where the card is going to cut, how much they have to have for a bleed that goes beyond that cutting edge. So you don't end up with cards that have a little thin white line right on the edge in case the press is just slightly off when it's cutting everything. And then the innermost rectangle that you see here is kind of the safety line where everything that's really critical absolutely has to be inside of that. So all of your text, all of your icons, that just ensures that nothing's going to get cut off and end up being a misprint. So the next phase, we get the more detailed pencil. And this is really where we really start to take a good look and make sure that there's nothing that we know is going to be covered by text. Or if we say, you know what, we really love seeing this little spot, can we adjust and move this up or to the left or to the right, whatever that may be. Sometimes we're like, for example, you'll see, these guys floating around up at the top that hide is just busted through. Sometimes we'll have him adjust the guy down a little bit so we can actually see him. Yeah. So the next.
And one thing, I'll jump in for a second too. One thing that's cool here that we're seeing is, so this is Cuberball, which is one of Joe Prado's guys. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he's been with us since the beginning. So if you've seen a lot of the Headless Horseman art that came out originally, like that great card we have is 6 Energy, where he's throwing the pumpkin head at the card. We actually made that one of the double player play match you guys are going to be able to get your hands on through the Kickstarter. It's such a cool piece of art. He's got a great process because we get a lot of steps and a lot of sketches, and it's everybody's different, but this is a good example of somebody who's taking you through the entire sketch process step by step the whole time. And it's, again, the results speak for themselves. He definitely has some of the cooler pieces of art that have made it into the set.
Yeah, for sure. And here you can really start to see it come to life. And then, all the edits that we can, or notes that we have that we can give the artists earlier on in the process, the much happier they are in the end, because we're not having them move and adjust big crucial pieces of the art when it's been fully developed and fully colored, and they're shipping it off thinking everything's good to go. And then we're saying, well, wait a minute, hold on, we've got a bunch of words that go over the middle of this character's face. They don't love that, and we don't love that. We don't want our artists to be upset with us. We want to keep using them, and we want them to want to work with us too. So that's a big part of keeping them happy. And so far, they've been really excited and happy with that process. So here's the next stage where the fully inked art comes through, and at this point, it's really checking the box, but also we really get to enjoy seeing every stage of the art. So, here it's just making sure there's nothing really wrong with the art. Yeah. And then going into the next stage is where we bring in the color and getting to see it in the full layout. Did I lose anyone? There we go. Yes. So
Nice.
Here's the full final colored piece of art. It's gorgeous. I love that color in the background. It really adds to Hyde's really maniacal, sadistic tendencies. It has a really great mood for this character. And we couldn't have been happier with how this piece turned out.
Absolutely.
Then,
Yeah,
and then one of my favorite parts is actually sending the artist back the layout with his art their art in the card, so they get to see the final example. And it's so fun. Nothing is more pleasing than watching something go from sketch along all the different stages to the final piece.
And this is another great example of this is one of the ones that Sean assigned. And it's great getting to, we came up with this we have to design Hyde from scratch. And there's been so many interpretations of Hyde. There's he doesn't really get much bigger. He gets more feral, and he's just a sociopathic murderer. There's Hyde from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where he's gigantic. There's so many interpretations of it, and we have to decide, like, what's ours. We definitely like the idea of the serum giving him a little bit of a bigger size, because we have more superhero-based characters, and we wanted him to kind of lean into the strength aspect of what he was doing. And we said, what about, he's going to be running in there and kind of plowing through people when he's met with a threat, because he's usually breaking through and like attacking the weak people. He doesn't really want to deal with the big army, so he's going to try to break through that front line and like get away and then go pick on the little guy. So this one, Trample, is a card that lets him, do a hit on the front line and then trample through and attack the back. So my screen popped out, but Luke, you have the text. You can read the text of the card, right?
Yep. This acts as a level 6 brute force attack. If defeated, Hyde may make one additional attack against the reserve character. Target may defend.
Yeah, so it's this is a mechanic we've been tossing around. Everybody, I think, with Rhino being in the game originally, wanted cards where you have characters that juggernaut, characters that get momentum and they plow through, and we said that's a very Hyde-like thing to do when he's a monster, and specifically targeting the reserve character, who's generally a lower threat character. You'll also notice some mechanics. I'm letting a little bit of the cat out of the bag. Hyde's going to have a lot of mechanics where his special cards are more powerful if he's targeting characters with a lower threat cost. Because the idea is he's not really going out there and trying to go toe-to-toe. He's kind of a sociopath, serial killer. So he wants to go pick on the innocent targets and bully him. But yeah, that's a great example of one of the more in-depth processes that we do to get from start to finish. And again, just an absolute wonderful artist to work with. So, again, can't thank Joe Prado Studio enough. We're so glad that we found him. It's been such an awesome partnership, and really, I think Sean said it best, from start to finish as a whole, just exceeded all expectations of what we thought we were going to get. So it's been really awesome. Luke, anything else you want to say about this card, or?
Just real quick, I noticed in the comments from Gremlin Tyson asking a question about the black border going up behind the icon. Just as a heads up, this isn't technically the final piece of artwork. That's something that we've been kind of adjusting and just taking notes through playtesting and some of our design process. And that black area is not going to continue all the way to the into the art area. That's going to do more of a fade behind the icon. So there was a work in progress. I know that there's some cards that have multiple icons up there, and it was a way to kind of break the icons away from the art a little bit, just so that they pop. But rest assured, it's going to be just a little bit more dialed in by the time that all the cards go to press. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And that's kind of a good transition. I think at this point, we can bring Sean and Luke and each one of us back. Like I said, I'm having a little technical difficulty, so I can't see our feed. But do we want to do some of the question and answers? Okay, sure. Well, I think Sean had to bow out. We told you he was a little under the weather, but we've got Luke and I here. So Ronald, who's helping us run this, has a bunch of questions that were given to us from people. Do I have them? Where were they sent? Were they emailed? Sorry, give me one quick second, guys, and I'll bring up those questions. I misunderstood the process here. So this is week 1. We'll have this all nailed down by week 2 and 3. Just email them to me real quick. So while he's going to shoot me an email with the questions that we got ahead of time, I'm going to start going through the chat and just answering some of the ones that I see in the chat. So kind of just go top to bottom in no particular order. So if you guys have a question, throw it in the chat. So I see the Great Nameless asks us, how do you guys feel about digital and physical coloring? it's kind of hard to have an opinion because most of the artists now, most of this art is still hand drawn, but it's created digitally. So pretty much every artist now for Marvel, DC, Image, they have pads or they have larger things. They have a special layer they put over their pads that feels like paper, but they're drawing on programs like Procreate. I feel like maybe out of 300 cards, a dozen of them were created on regular paper. The Joe Jesco stuff, he paints it by hand still. Um, one of our artists who we showed a card from last night on the Overpower Adventures stream still does sketches by hand. But most everybody uses Procreate, and then they still color using the online tools. So technically, I would think that was all digital, but I definitely don't want a computer to just pick where the colors are. There's, again, just as we talked about with having multiple colorists do it, you really get to see that is as much a part of the art as the drawing it is. Like their interpretations of, the texture of surfaces, their gradients on where the light is, their this decision to apply shadows and light in certain places. It's definitely something that even if it's done on a digital medium like Procreate, I would never want to do it without a human doing it. And actually, that's kind of a great thing to bring back to Overpower for all of those of us who collect the original art. If you've ever seen Howard Bertrand post any of the art from his room or followed any of the people that's been getting a lot of forgetting his name now, but Warren, the artist that just put up like 40 pieces. He did the Sentinels mutant countermeasures, and we gave away a piece of his original art that we purchased as a prize for the Seattle tournament. A lot of time with the original Overpower sets, you look at these pencil drawings, and I say to myself, like, they ruined it with the coloring. I own the original Raza, and I own the original Mystique 6 Energy that hits the reserve. Two very different sets. One's monumental, one's the original set. The pencil drawing for the Mystique 6 is a beautiful piece of art. Just the cross hatching, the textures. It's very 90s, but such a good piece of art. And then you look at the way they did their digital coloring, and it's just like they just put flat gray over it, flat white, flat red, and a little green background. And it just, in my opinion, that they were just starting to get into using what I think you're referencing, which is digital art or digital coloring that wasn't necessarily like brushstroke related. It was like click and fill and try to apply gradients. It really took away a lot from some of the pieces. I know the Bertrands have one of the events from the infestation incident, the one where Professor X he's being possessed by one of the brood, and I felt the same thing when I saw that for the first time at their house. It's such a great piece of pencil work, and it's like so detailed, and you see the emotion on Professor X's face, and then you go and look at the event and it's just washed out single colors. So I think that answers your question.
I just wanted to chime in and talk about the original art process too. We're working with all these artists, and some of them do still work with original analog mediums, and we're trying to purchase as much artwork as we can, and we wish we had a bigger budget so we could do it all analog, because like Joe said, we really believe in original artwork. Some of it might be available for price support in future tournaments. Some of it might be available for purchase if we do some sort of charity, or some might be available in sort of a reprint version. But we also received a question asking about buying art prints, and we would like to give the opportunity to the community to be able to buy some limited edition sketches and colored versions of the digital artworks that will live as unique pieces that we'll never reprint.
Thank you. And that's, you guys probably know Ronald. Ronald is our president. He handles all the business side of what we do, gives us more opportunity to just be creative. So we do definitely have some artists. A lot of the Kirby Comics artists are still working on a physical medium, and we're trying to purchase as much of the original art as we can from anybody that doesn't do it digitally. But like Ron was saying, we're hoping to have prints that are available at some level of rarity if people want to still get that feeling of trying to collect some of the originals. So All right, so I've got some questions here that were sent along. So I haven't seen these. I'm just going to jump right in. Well, the first one is, since everything's digital now, will we have the opportunity to seek out original art? I think we just answered that. So we'll jump to the next one. So will the same artist be doing all the artwork on all the cards for each character, or will it be different? That's a great question. We wanted to switch it up a little bit. So we're intentionally trying to not have that happen on most of the heroes. So what you'll see is, that's not always the case. I'll give you an example. The gentleman Gonzalo, who did our art for the original power card set, he created those 4 power cards. We have the play mats that are here on the table that you see when we do our streams. So the Beowulf and Grendel one, the Dracula, the Zeus, and the Zorro. Those were created. We commissioned those originally. All of the art that you saw or most of the art that you saw for the Any Hero Essentials pack, we purchased his leftover art and had that all come in a bundle because, frankly, we just at that point we didn't have the money to go out and commission 50 new pieces at that time. So, but going back to the original, we wanted to really bring him back and get a piece of get some of the flavor for him represented in the set as well. So he was really excited about doing Zorro. We loved his 8 combat card. So he is doing the Zorro hero and all 6 of the specials. And we've pretty much just got the final versions of everything in. And it was a long road to get to that with him, but he delivered, and we got some very awesome pieces that really step it up from what the 8 combat card was. And that's an example of somebody that just wanted to do the whole thing, and we said, okay. But most of them, we had a guy, Raphael, who's been working on the Dracula special cards, and I love his version of it. Dracula's going to be there are going to be a few cards in here that push the envelope a little bit on the gore, because we really wanted Dracula to seem like one of the bad guys that's really menacing. So there's a little bit of blood on those. We're trying to keep the blood and the gore in the set to a minimum. It's really just a few of the Dracula cards and a couple Van Helsing cards, but he does this really, I wish I could show you. He does, oh wait, if you saw it on Overpower Adventures last night, that was one. If you have one of the Dracula ones that you can show, that'd be fantastic. So you see that this is the far end of which one are you pulling up, Ronald? Do you know? Do you have the one in the armor? So while he takes a look for that, he's going to see if he has the one that we showed on the adventures last night. So he's somebody that we got to do a chunk of them, but Dracula's also so iconic, we want to have a few different interpretations. And we really like some of the painted style for the artist that did Sherlock Holmes. So I guess the short answer is some of the characters will have all the same art if we think it's really identifiable for the characters, such as Sherlock Holmes or Billy the Kid. And then other ones we wanted to give different artists a chance to see their interpretation. So it's not always going to be the same art is the answer, but anytime it's switched, it's generally a pretty intentional thing.
Just to add on to that, Joe, one of my favorite things that of all the art that I've seen in the every card that we've done so far, I love that there's just such a wide range of art styles. There's a little bit of something for everyone, from the painterly, very gothic looking Headless Horseman by Pharaoh, to this really crisp, super detailed image that we're looking at by Philip Tan. Everything is gorgeous in its own way. So, if there'll be some pieces that you may not love, but there'll be, I'm sure of it, plenty that you're really going to be excited about, because everything we've seen come in, we've been super excited about for that their kind of lane of art style. So that I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. So Ronald's gonna get this up there. He'll let me know when it pops up, but it's up right now. Okay, sorry. Like I said, I've lost my feed, so I'm flying blind. But so this is an example of somebody whose style we really liked. He did the Call of Cthulhu mission set. And we just really liked the way, I don't know the right term for it, but we really liked his style for that kind of creepy horror, gothic horror, and we said, let's give this guy a crack at Dracula. This is going to be the art for To the Last Man, which, if you're familiar with the MOE set, we're recreating his cards in kind of a new version of it. Hold on one second. Ronald's just going to try to get us back on here. Yay, welcome to the first episode with our tech challenges. So I'm back. I love this piece of art now that I can see it again. This was a fun one to go through. So I gave this artist the direction of like, it's supposed to be Vlad the Impaler. I wanted it to look like the armor, and the idea is after his crusades, he decides to like give himself in and become Dracula. Some of the sort of fantastical versions of it. It was originally just when he first submitted it, he didn't have it raining. And I said, let's make it raining. It's going to feel a little more like you're going to kind of feel the weight of what's happening to him. And then the background didn't really have any detail. And I just said, we couldn't figure out what it was. We tried a night sky with stars. And then I finally said, I think it just needs to be like a dusk, like an orange cloud, like, it's sort of like the sun's going down on his humanity for the last time as he becomes a vampire that's never going to see the sun again. So I was just really, really happy with how that came out. So kind of a long-winded talk about the different things we think about, but we've got these pieces for him. And then, and then we're going to have a different interpretation probably for the hero and a couple of his other specials. So let me jump to another question here that people submitted. So I think we covered question 3 here. Is the artist generally given flavor of the card, what it needs to be, defensive pose? Yeah, so you sort of heard 2 different descriptions. We try to give them the loose outline and then just let them deliver the magic. So for this card, for example, I didn't tell him like, I have him kneeling facing to the left of the card. I want to see like 15 bodies on spikes. I want to see like, I just basically gave him a loose idea of like, I want to see something similar like a Vlad the Impaler armor. Historically, that was said like black and red is always what's been talked about for his armor. So he did something similar. Has a bit of a Dracula feel to it, but he came up with the positioning and the composition and stuff from very little direction on his own. All right. Do artists know if what they are drawing is for a power card, universe card, special card? Well, they do now. Yes, they were always told what it was, but I had created a general Word document at first. So when we would bring on a new artist, we would do kind of a briefing meeting, and we would give them a Word document that had every card type, and we gave them an example. So when we started, they had to be examples from the old game to say, here's an idea of like what this card looked like, but our special cards we had from doing the Any Hero set. But we said this is what we're going to do differently with ours, or this is how we're going to structure it differently. But here's a little bit of a template of like where to make the focus of the art sit. So they did get a little bit of that. So then we are having a Joe Jesco. Are we having a Joe Jesco created character or a character illustrated by Jesco? Illustrated by Jesco. So I think right now Jesco is going to do his own version of hero cards for John Carter of Mars and Deja Thoris. He's kind of in the mode of painting that now, because if you follow Edgar Rice Burroughs, they did 28. I think that's all of the Tarzan books. He did covers for each one. They're great. They're doing that now with the Mars books. So he's done the covers for the first 3 Mars books, and I believe 4 and 5 are coming out soon. I don't quote me on the exact numbers and issues, but he's kind of in that mode, and we gave him options of whoever he wanted to do, and he kind of gravitated right back and was like, I'm so in the mode of John Carter and Deja Thoris. I'd love to like do something with that for you. So Joe's an awesome artist. He was really great to do a panel with because he's so detail oriented with everything he does. He was showing us a piece at the con that he did that was, I want to say it was a World War I soldier. and he was like, every little medal had exactly the right number of stripes and designs, and the gun had exactly like the right feeds, and I don't know guns, so, but it had all the little parts, and it was so much so that he would get people that would write him to just say, I love looking at your art because it's so accurate. He'll do research for months to make sure every little thing he shows in his art is accurate, even from a fictional world. Like, if he's going to draw John Carter, he's going to know every bit from that book of exactly, like, if this is from book 4, like, what was the medal he was wearing, like, what was his rank in the Green Men's army, because as he killed them, he became, I don't think it was a Jetic, but he became like in the ranks of the Green Martians, and then he gets different decorations based on who he's killed and how he's been promoted. So that's cool. So Jesco is going to be illustrating characters that we've already announced. But you're going to get 2 original pieces that are only going to exist in Overpower. They're not going to be from comics. And then he's also given us access to his full library from all these new pieces that he's done. So there's going to be a lot of Joe Jesco art in the set that you probably haven't seen unless you're a real big follower of all things ERB. So anything from the chat? Let's see if there's anything from the chat. I don't know if power cards would be boosters. So I think we've talked about this a lot, Great Nameless, but I'll let you know again. So you said you wanted to ask if power cards and boosters and what ratios they'd be in there. The quick booster pack breakdown is 17 card booster packs. Each booster pack is going to have a set collection of 6 cards, which will be a hero with 5 of their specials, a second hero with 5 of their specials. Those set chunks of 6 will be randomized within the pack. So you may get Dracula and 5 of his specials and Joan of Arc and 5 of her specials, but they're not always going to appear together. That'll be randomized. The idea is this coalition needs to be this way to do our draft format. And then you'll have 4 uncommons, which is generally going to be the 6 1 per deck for those characters. That'll have cards like certain home bases, certain any character cards, certain teamworks. That's going to influence how you draft. And then all of the rare slots are going to be the signature series cards. There'll be ultra rare ones, like the Jesco ones will probably be ultra rare. They're going to be a little more collectible. And then there'll be regular rares, which we haven't assigned which is which yet. It's really just going to be which ones we like the best. They'll become the ultra rares. So so that gives you an example of what that pack breakdown is. But to keep in mind, we're doing bigger packs than any of the other games do, 17 cards. All the cards are playable. You don't get any checklists, you don't get any land, you don't get any non-usable, like, we didn't want you to get allies, basic universes, trainings, power cards. Those are all going to be in the starter decks and probably in the power card stations. So all right, so let's go to another one on here. So let's take a look at the time. 8:10. We are going to try to make sure these aren't all like really long things. So I'll plow through some of these questions quickly now, and we'll let you guys get out of here because we are going to do this every week. So will there be any sort of resources for people to find out where stores are hosting events? Absolutely. So we haven't made a decision yet. I will touch on this a bit. I think Doug Sims prematurely announced something he'd heard secondhand about what service we were going to go to. No decisions have been made for who our tournament organizing service or our play network provider is going to be. We are looking at car challenge. We're looking at cardio. But whatever we get, we are going to have a front-facing platform that is going to allow for deck building online. It's going to allow for a judge program and a player incentive program, and you're going to be able to organize that through. It's going to have a store locator and it'll have a judge locator. So if you want to move past our Learn to Play rulebook, go take the judge test from our comprehensive rulebook, you can become a judge. It'll enter you in a database, and if you're in Philadelphia and somebody wants to have a tournament within X amount of miles of you, your name will pop up. You'll provide whatever you want for a form of contact, email address or phone. They can just reach out to you. We recommend any regional tournaments or nationals we have, we're going to be paying judges, just like with the art. We're very big on, if you're working, we're going to pay you. We're going to recommend that all brick and mortar stores do the same. Obviously, we can't really manage that. That's a little beyond our realistic purview. But we're also going to be providing stores with the same prize support packs that you're going to get for winning tournaments. You can earn those as being judges, and then we're going to create a store, so you're also going to earn power points, that we're calling them, and you can redeem power points for sweatshirts, hoodies, play mats, deck boxes. So that'll be true for our ambassador program too. You go into the store, you make a deal with the owner of the store that you want to start a Overpower group. You teach people, you get them to sign up. Everybody, you get to sign up and create a profile. You'll get points. Don't hold me to exactly how the details of these will work, because that's going to be dependent on who our provider is. But yeah, there's absolutely going to be resources available for finding stores, for stores to let the word out that they're hosting events, for finding judges, and for learning how to play. That's another one without even getting asked. We are producing our learn to play videos as fast as we can. We didn't expect there to be such a demand for them so quickly, but it's great that there is. So we're doing that. It's definitely going to be not super fast, but we're going to have very, very good learn to play videos that are going to come out a little bit after you guys get both the learn to play rule book and then the online comprehensive rule book. So, all right. There was a conversation here on Discord about multiplayer play. Has multiplayer play been looked into at all? I mean, not anything past that it's awesome and we want to figure out a way to do it. Yeah, we love the idea of multiplayer play, some kind of format similar to Commander. Keith Bursack, one of our founders, has a way that he and his play group does it that they really like. But to be honest, there's only so much bandwidth when we're designing 3 sets at once. And also talking to other IPs that might turn into the 4th and the 5th set. You know, we're like any CCG, we're going to get to the point where we're planning sets out 2 or 3 years ahead of time. We haven't had the bandwidth for that yet, but we definitely want to do a multiplayer, and we want to start doing some kind of encounter single player event decks, similar to, you know, what you see in like games where you'll be teaming up against a bigger threat. You know, we see it in one of our favorite games is Crisis Protocol. They do something similar. That's a minis game. Lorcana does it. It's very similar to like Sentinels of the Multiverse. We love all these things. So we absolutely want to have a way that we can sit around with our friends and fight Thanos or fight somebody who's like a big bad. Yeah, so I hope that answers that question. Will there be deck building resources online like Overpower CA? Absolutely. That's part of the website we're designing. We most likely won't be able to include the Golden Age cards on there. Maybe at some point, but we don't know, so we're not taking any chances. But for everything that we put out, there will be a resource for Modern Age going forward. And yeah, you know, we hope that there's always a platform online to at least be able to go look at the old cards. So, will add-ons be open as well? I.e., can you have more boosters for money? Absolutely. So add-ons, booster boxes are one of the things that's in our add-ons. So you'll be able to pick out your tier on the Kickstarter, and then you'll be able to add on anything from the list, which ranges from some booster boxes, play mats, deck things. You'll have to go on to see exactly what it is. I don't know the whole Kickstarter by heart, but...
Also, another thing I want to add is that we're going to be using Pledge Manager, which is going to allow for you post-campaign to be able to upgrade your tier that you subscribe to, and also purchase additional add-ons after the Kickstarter, the official Kickstarter campaign has ended. So everybody that has pledged will have that opportunity afterwards, while we're handling all of the details for fulfillment, making sure that everybody is going to get their right product, and making sure that everybody is aware of when they're going to be shipped and how they will be delivered.
Yeah. Awesome. And you'll see, he's got the Kickstarter page up there, which is great. I'll say this here while we have a lot of people watching. So we are making a decision right now to try a new, Cardamundi has a new amazing digital printing process. And so that's a change we're just making. So we are going to update these uncut sheet images. They are not the same dimensions as this. They will be a little bit smaller. And we're going to update that before we go. But we just want to be as transparent as possible that based on the logistics of how we're doing the printing now, the uncut sheets aren't going to be quite the same size. So that'll all be ironed out before we open the Kickstarter. All right. Do my Marvel cards still count, or do I need the IQ base set for the new set? I think what you're asking is, can you still use the 3-stat heroes? The 3-stat heroes are they were always still legal in all the games. There's still ones that you see in tournaments today. You know, I was lucky enough to get to go to the awesome Seattle tournament that Doug Taylor and Larry put together, and there was still a 3-grid Magneto being played. You know, we did a home-based tournament, and some people were choosing to play 3-grid blob instead of 4-grid blob. So those characters have always been there, and we're keeping the exact same threshold of 76 threat. We're just changing different ways you can get it. Like home bases will have a threat sometimes now, but that same way in Golden Age that you used to price the 3-grid characters to combine with the IQ characters, still going to exist. So we don't have any intention of aging any large groups of cards out of Golden Age. The only thing that we're going to stick with is the North American Overpower League's banned list. And so the Devourer of Worlds will remain banned. The second we got rid of that card, we saw deck diversity increase to a percentage I don't even know how to calculate. You know, it had just eliminated so much creativity, and now we're at the point where we're seeing characters you never thought you'd see on decks. Juggernaut just won a tournament a few tournaments ago, and then 7 people had Juggernaut on their front line the next tournament. You know, we didn't expect to see things like that, so just getting rid of that one card really made a huge difference. So we'll still have a ban list. You know, I'm not going to be able to say what will or won't happen in Golden Age. You know, some amount of that's probably not going to be dictated by just us. It's going to be dictated by the players and groups that are running those older tournaments. But yeah, completely 100% compatible. So, and yeah, Dave, I see him in the chat there. Come out to Boston, guys. We're going to have a huge tournament in November. So I think just like we have, I think every year in Boston, I think we're going to break the overall attendance record again for the end of the season. So, outside of the reward tiers, will there be other ways to get the 2024 promo cards? Probably not. For us, we're not gonna be doing anything with them new. Sorry, let me back up. The foil ones are only available at the tournaments, and then there's going to be additional foils that are available if we hit the stretch goals, and those are going to go to most of the tiers. Some tiers, if like you're just getting a few starter decks, don't get every stretch goal, which is completely normal for a Kickstarter. But this is going to be the only chance to get the foil promos again. So if you want those first versions of the foil promos with that art, you know, this is your last chance. But if you want those promos in non-foil, our partner, the Orange King, was fantastic at helping us launch this and get off the ground, and he's going to have plenty of non-foil versions. So if you want a playable version of any of the promos, they're going to be easy to get. But if you want that shiny one, you're going to have to get your friends to sign up and hit those stretch goals. So, all right. So, oh yeah, Ronald has just reminded me of something too. So guys, if I don't want to give anything away and show the booth, but we've got a booth. We're going to have, Overpower is going to have an entire booth and have a presence at New York Comic Con. So if you guys have a chance to get down there, do it. But we're announcing now that we are doing a New York Comic Con exclusive card that's going to be available at our booth. If you show up at our booth at New York Comic Con and show us that you've pledged the Kickstarter on the 17th, 2 days after it started, you're going to get a copy of this foil. If you come and do a demo at New York Comic Con and pledge on the spot, you're going to get a copy of this foil. This foil will not exist anywhere ever again except for New York Comic Con. We're going to basically destroy any of the ones that we don't give out at Comic Con, so they're going to be extremely rare. As we've already seen with the power card pack that we did, some of those 5 multis, we printed 250 of those packs, and there was 3 copies, so about 750 copies. They're going for over $100 in the single market, which blows my mind. I didn't think we were already creating the singles market, but this New York Comic Con one, it's going to be a variant art of a card that exists in the set. Probably going to be even more valuable. It's only going to be available at Comic Con. So, yeah. The what? Let's save the booth for a surprise. We're gonna show them after. We'll show you guys pictures once we get there and man the booth. But it's pretty amazing. We've got a company that's designing a pretty mind-blowing booth that some people have gotten to see on our team. So, but let's plow through these questions, guys. It's 9:20. I don't want to keep everybody here all night, but I want to get to as much as I can. I noticed specials don't have a code anymore. Are you still going to be doing battle sites? I'm not going to go too much into this because it's not art related, but we like the idea of characters being able to guest star. That's an integral part of comics. The idea of battle sites, although it was just to use the 3-grid heroes, was also that guest stars can appear depending on where you're fighting. I will say that I don't foresee us doing battle sites the way they were done, but we have a couple of different ideas on the floor of doing something that's battle site adjacent that may even just combine the way that any heroes work and picking a site and having suites of cards. But nothing's locked in yet. Nothing's 100%. We don't know when and if we're going to introduce that. For right now, we've got this any character set for the first one, and then we're still figuring out what's going to fall in the set that's yet to be announced in the Top Cow set. But battle sites as they exist now, I can tell you if I have my say, and it's not just me, it's a team of people that vote. I think one of the bigger problems in the game was when a character could use other characters' cards and you had to sub their name in. It just a lot of the rules issues and needless complication and trying to balance a character. Like you want to go out and create Zorro and you have to say, well, this character Zorro is balanced, but if every single other character in the entire game ever can use one of his cards, is he balanced? It's just a nightmare from a game design standpoint. So I don't see us ever doing it that way. When will the rulebook be available for players to understand the new rules? Can you talk more about the meta rules elimination? Very soon. Like every second that I wasn't prepping for this today, I was hammering out more of the Learn to Play rulebook. We provided all our playtesters with the comprehensive rulebook, which is the very dense one. But what we are creating, which will be helpful for you guys to know, when we put out that, we're going to give you the Learn to Play rulebook, very similar to the old rulebook that you used to get in the packs. And then we're also going to have the big one where you can go in and really get into the minutia of timings and what card types will trump what if there's a direct contradiction. And it's very well thought out. Dave's been the architect. Dave McMillan has been the architect for a lot of pieces of that. But the great thing is you can sit down and play the game and not read a single one of those comprehensive rules and just understand one aspect of the board we're adding, which is the astral plane, and that cards have to pass through that when they're played. And as soon as you understand that one little bit of how it works, the game just feels like you're playing Overpower. It's just like in other CCGs, unless there's an interaction that involves that area or that phase, you kind of just blow past it. But what's great about it is when you do get into a specific rules question or a conundrum, you don't just have to make up nonsense and say, well, this CW will always make it work this way from now on. It's there. You'll be able to go to the rule book and say, this rule dictates exactly what's happening. But we're making a document that's called a cross. We're just calling it a crosswalk. When we added the white icons to the cards, we did this and we put out like a fully drawn out animated version of it. And told you exactly what the icons were and what they represented and the types of cards it affected. We're going to do the same thing and say, as we've written the rule book, Dave went through and highlighted anything that was a change. And you'll get the Learn to Play, you'll get the comprehensive rule book, and then you'll get the crosswalk. I'm not going to go much more into it because we are going to do an entire episode with Dave about the rule book when we drop it. So, is there going to be a list of the new characters at launch? I'm saying right now, I don't think we're going to do that. I think as the game goes on, it's going to have a competitive. It's going to have a competitive circuit. People are going to want to see the stuff before they go, so they can practice for draft and study. I think inevitably we'll have visual spoilers of the full set before it drops. But for this first set, I really want to create that feeling that when you guys open it, you might not know some of the characters that are in it. You're not going to know the specials. I want it to feel like the old game. So that first tournament you guys go to a month after the cards come out, you're going to have to get together with your friends and be like, there's 41 new characters and 2 variants. So 43 characters. Who should we use? What should we do? What's it like in standard where it's just these characters? What ones are going to be good when we back up and put them in Golden Age? And I can tell you when we did our first in-house playtest event, we had about 8 of us, and we specifically didn't talk to each other about what to build. and we all brought 2 or 3 decks, and it was fun like we were 15-year-old kids again, where, you know, everybody showed up and was like, you know, I got a John Carter deck with Poseidon and Sheriff of Nottingham, and I've got, you know, these guys over here, and oh, you're trying to do that? Oh, you're gonna, oh, that works so good. I didn't think of that combo. We want you guys to get that experience again. So I know everybody, we live in the world of instant everything, and I think we want to go a little old school and let you guys really open these packs and just get the fun of reading a card and being like, oh my god, that's so broken. Let's go make a deck and break it. So, yeah. All right. Can you clarify about what you mean by +1 alternative hero card? Is this a new unique card or an alternative art card? What that means for those stretch goals is we're going to do more cards from those people. So if we hit that stretch goal, we're gonna say, cool, here's more money, do another one, and it'll just increase the number of rares that we were originally planning in the set. So, yeah, so there'll be even more collectability. Yeah, in theory, there's a lot of number of cards that it could add in if we hit those stretch goals, and I think we will. I mean, I'm not going to talk numbers, but you know, guys, keep whatever you're doing is working. We're getting stores reaching out. We have we're exceeding all expectations on engagement. So, you guys, the fans, have been fantastic. Keep sharing the page. Keep talking to your stores. That's the best thing you can do to help us out. Is, you know, go to your stores and say, hey guys, this Overpower thing looks great. Like, talk to your distributor, like, go look at the Kickstarter page and sign up. We're just like, you know, even today, there was a Pennsylvania store that I was on the phone with for an hour, and they were so excited to ask us questions. So, can you clarify? Oh no, I did that one. Do these have the same number of each card, or are there more copies of the most useful cards, like the 4 multi-power card? I'm not really sure I understand that. Hold on. Do these have this? Maybe the packs. Do the packs have the same number of cards? The most useful cards, like the 4 multi-power. I'm not really completely sure what that question is, but I think maybe it goes back to our pack distribution, where we're going to try to keep power cards, allies, basics, and trainings out of the packs, and just let you get them through the starter decks or through your power card power station box. So that when you go open a pack, it's all going to be fun stuff you're excited to use right away. You're going to have 2 characters you can use the second you open a pack. You might not have 3 copies of their non-1 products. You're still going to have to collect a little bit, but they're all common and uncommon cards. So you're going to be able to just go buy 3 packs and be like, I've got 6 new characters. I can use them with any of the starter decks from second one. So, all right. Can you? I think I've only got a couple left. Do you have any ways to make non-multi-power cards of value 4 or less more useful? Yeah, I mean, I think we'll tell you guys this now. You know, the cat's sort of out of the bag with most of our mechanics. Probably the biggest change, and one of the only direct changes we've decided to make to the set, is for the standard format for now, and this could change depending on how it goes in feedback, but it's playtesting very well. We're actually getting rid of low multi-power cards in the way that you've seen them. So we're not going to have any 1s or any 2 multis in the set. That's not going to be released for the standard format. And what we're going to have is a 3, a 4, and a 5 that are 1 per decks. So you're still going to have multi-power power cards, but in the standard format, they're not going to fuse anymore. They're going to work just like a special card. They're truly going to be wild cards. And we've been playtesting it that way from the beginning, and we love it. What it does is it really makes you have to consider your lower grids as much as your higher grids. Suddenly, if you get a character that has a 1 and a 2, they're a real hindrance, because you can't just jam in 1 and 2 multis and everything's fine. You can't use multiple 3 and 4 multis. You actually have to say, like, wow, this guy's got a 1 energy. Everybody else has a 4 energy. Maybe I risk it. Or you get a couple of guys with a low stat, you find yourself using your main grid for 4s and 3s. And we've found that that's really made deck building more fun and more interesting. And kind of exactly to your question, it was just your power card distribution of 4 or less was basically autopilot in the old set. So we've got El Gato here, Ronald, if you want to jump out the camera cut off a little bit there. Let's go to our last question on the ones that were sent ahead of time. Yes, there will be a learn to play video series. We're getting the most requests for it. We want to get that out to you guys, but we want it to be quality. So we don't just want to slap something together. So same with the rule book. I think one of the things with this whole process that we would speak to is, I think the biggest complaint along the way that most people have had is they want things sooner. We love that. We want to get you guys stuff as fast as we can. And we love the passion of, like, get us the rule book, get us this, get us that. We're working as fast as we can, but one thing we're not going to do is fall prey to what a lot of game companies do now and give you something that's incomplete or not ready. When we put this rule book out, you'll know that it's something that we have written for the last 3 years. We vetted internally for a year. We had countless summits where everybody traveled to a house and we put whiteboards out and we argued and hashed it out about exactly how every single one would work. And then we had an entire weekend where we took every term, acts as, play with. We defined exactly what those meant. So now you'll have a term sheet of over 100 terms in the game and exactly how those interact. When you get the rule book, it's going to be something that was painstakingly put together to make sure that the game functions properly. And that takes time. We just want to make sure it's right. So we know you guys want it. We hear you. We're trying to get the learn to play videos produced. We want to make sure the rule book's perfect. But when we get it out to you, it's going to be very, very well play tested with our play test groups now and vetted by us. So, Uthanac, I'm going back to the chat here, says you have an art question. Fire away. Ronald's putting up that sweet Victor Faro Headless Horseman piece again. Luke, do you have any questions while Uthanac is typing out his question? Luke's muted.
Oh, looks like the question just popped in.
So Uthanac, why is AI art not used to cut the cost since the game is not established yet? We don't like it. There's no tricky answer there. I don't like the technology. I think it's, I'm not going to go on a tirade here, but I want there to be artists in the world. I want there to be a little kid that sees a sunset and spends 20 years drawing pictures because it inspired him, and then gets to go out and share art that elicits an emotion from other people. When I go and I see the Deja Thoris card that's on the screen, and I remember reading Jim Lee comics as a kid, if that was a John Carter comic and I'd never read it, I would pick that up and buy it. Like, that creates excitement. It creates anticipation. I look at AI art, and who knows, maybe someday it'll learn how to have that emotion. I don't feel that way. There's another CCG I won't name in badmouth, but it looks like, I think their shtick is that they made all their art with AI. And I just don't feel anything when I look at the art. It just looks like, I don't know, it seems soulless, I guess is the best way to do it. So we could have cut costs. I would venture that our art budget for this set is bigger than any art budget for any CCG that's out there. We're spending a lot. It's probably I think it's our biggest expense next to getting one of the licenses for the next set. And when we do the next sets, I think it's going to be the biggest thing that we do. We're spending, I'm not going to give you numbers, but a lot.
And I'll chime in. We are spending 6 figures on art, and Joe has already told me, if this goes well, could we spend more? And of course, that'd be great. And the other thing too, I'll just chime in. I was an artist for many years. I worked as a fashion photographer. I worked for Harper's Bazaar, and I had my images published in Marie Claire and Elle, and I traveled all over the place. I enjoy using AI, and I almost use it every day. But to create art, it's not fun. And a lot of the artists that we've talked to, and one of the reasons why they want to work with us while we're a small company, is because we hate AI art. At least I hate AI art.
Well, and that's, we talked about this a little, but that's also why we've been able to get such big name artists. That one of the big pushes for them is, we're telling them, like, guys, this is a chance for you to draw the art and kind of get your work out there in a medium that used to inspire kids to want to continue to buy the art. It's a cyclical process. So, you said AI art helps cut the costs and pass the buck to the consumer. This could help launch a game. Right now, everyone in my play group thinks the Kickstarter is too steep. I mean, all I can say about that, Uthnek, is it's the Kickstarter prices are going to be cheaper than anything that you're going to find on the shelf. We've got 17 card packs. All 17 cards are playable. You go buy a pack of Magic for more money than what our retail cost is going to be. You get 15 cards. One of them's a land and one of them's an advertisement. So you're really getting a 13 card pack. So you're getting 4 more playable cards with our pack, and the price is going to be the same or cheaper. So the Kickstarter prices are reduced even cheaper than what you'd get for a buy a box of discount. The best we can say is we consulted directly with multiple brick and mortar stores, and we set our prices to make sure that they were lower than what you'd be able to get for any other game. And so it's the best we can do. We understand if it's not something that everybody wants to do, but we want people to want to collect the art, and if we can bring the quality of art that you're seeing on the screen for a price card for card that's less than you're going to get at any of the other games, I feel like that's the path that we want to take. That's in line with the company goals that we want to have. So, and if that's not,
that's the hill we're gonna die on.
Yeah, and if that's not your cup of tea, we totally understand. We hope that the collation model of not having to chase rares is a little more of the draw. The fact that you can watch whoever, I'll say Phil Keffer because the guy is an unbelievably skilled card player. If he goes and wins the Nationals the first year, you're going to be able to go out and build his deck for $20 in singles because all the cards are available at common and uncommon. So with that in mind, I'm not entirely sure how we've done everything we can with the customer in mind to be really easy on the budget. And if the Kickstarter bundles are too much, then, we understand. We hope that you'll pick up the game in singles and just build a deck with the characters that you like. And that'll be, we've tried to make that a super easy barrier of entry for you and new players.
And I have to say, with also the focus test groups that we did, we feel that there is a bundle for everyone. Particularly since we are a young company and we're coming out, there is a bundle for everyone if you just want to dip your toes in. Yeah. Eventually, we're going to come to retail with the other licenses, and the game will change in the sense how it's perceived. But for now, at least we know what our core tenets are. A game for the gamers, because all of the core team grew up playing Overpower, and we believe in working with artists.
Ronald, I've only got the chat for the Discord. Are there any questions that have popped up in any of the other chats that you can see looking at them? I don't know if there's even chats in the other ones or if we can see that.
There are. I'll check. Give me a second.
Yeah. So Luke, I started to ask you, you've been a part of this process now kind of for the first time. Is there any questions you had or anything you wanted to talk about before we kind of get to wrapping up here?
No, I guess my last point about, AI, I'm a graphic designer, and trust me, like, AI is coming, but it's never going to replace everything because, like Joe and Ronald were saying, the emotion just isn't there. And, there's been a lot of instances where certain companies have used AI art and published it as their own, and then, oh, lo and behold, you see people from actual other ads that have popped up in this video or this print advertisement, and it causes a huge legal issue. Who's the artist at that point? The way I think about AI, I think it's great. It's a great tool in terms of helping you create ideas and brainstorm. I've seen some pretty wacky stuff, but it's, I think of AI as taking what it spits out and then kind of creating my own and helping me ideate and going down that road. So I hear you. A lot of people love it and think it's the bee's knees, but for those of us who love getting that new issue off the rack or have those memories of seeing their first Andy Kubert piece of art or their first Jim Lee poster, like, man, nothing's ever going to beat that. So, like I said, I hope it comes through that every time we've gotten a piece of art and we're texting it around and we're super jazzed and excited, that's exactly what we're trying to recreate for players of the game. So it's all the best intentions. I've believed in it since, Joe and the rest of the team talked to me about it. So I'm in board, and you can't argue with the results of the art that we've seen. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are too.
I think that's a great answer and very well said, Luke. Ronald, anything that's popping up over there that you think's worth it? No? All right. Guys, we went a lot longer. This 30-minute Q&A has now been going on for about an hour and 40 minutes, so we're going to call it quits here. Thanks very much for coming on and being with us. I hope we answered your questions. We're going to decide what the subject matter is for the Q&A for next week, and we'll be back with you. And we're going to talk about something, whether it's the new rules will drop or we'll talk about the playtest format. We're just going to keep breaking down more and more of this Kickstarter and giving you guys more and more information.
Okay. Bye-bye. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm going to do the Daily Show thing and sign the paper.